Hey guys, I have been promising to sit down for a minute and talk annual pass price increases with you guys for a bit. So I just decided to hole up in my room for a few minutes. We have a house full to chat with you about sort of my thinking behind the changes and maybe get your thoughts as well in response. I'd love to hear what you guys think. So I'm going to just lead in by saying that nothing that I'm about to say discounts the fact that this is real money. This is significant money. We have a family of four too. All these changes get multiplied by four for us as well. And, that's tough stuff. And if you're one of the many, Disney loving families out there who's sitting down again with a calculator and running the numbers to see if you can still justify the expense, then I get it. I feel it. And absolutely nothing that I'm going to say in this video or elsewhere about sort of what I'm guessing they might be thinking and sort of where we go from here changes that whatsoever. So I just wanted to acknowledge that going in. Please don't think that I don't get that. That being said, I think that there's a more interesting story and more interesting dialogue to have here than just throwing out the usual back and forth of, Walt would be rolling over in his grave versus Disney as a corporation and they're in the business of making money as well as magic. I think those are valid points. Well, the Walt rolling over in his grave thing we're going to talk about, but they are a corporation. They are in the business of making money. I don't begrudge them that whatsoever. They earn their money as far as I'm concerned. But I just think there's a more interesting conversation to be had here, and I wanted to start it with you guys. So the big thing for me, and what I haven't seen people talking about much, is the fact that when these price increases rolled in the night before last, the drastic increases were there for annual passes. However, there was not any price increase whatsoever this time, or at this time, for daily theme park tickets. And I think that's really interesting, and I think that might speak volumes about what the thinking is behind these changes and the direction that, while I'm not in their heads, the direction that Disney might be going in with this thinking. So the way it used to be and the way it's always been, and to some extent, the way it'll always be, is that when you're making the decision between purchasing theme park tickets, daily theme park tickets for your regular vacations versus buying an annual pass, most people will think to themselves, let's see, how many days would I need to be in the parks in order to justify purchasing an annual pass instead? So there was sort of rough math out there for a while that if you were going to be in the park for 10 days out of the year, for example, it made more sense from an economic perspective, from a financial perspective, to buy the annual pass instead. And that makes sense, right? You kind of run your numbers, you figure out what you'd be paying to get into the parks, and if the AP is less money, then that's what you go with. So in sort of pulling away with a higher price on APs, but not changing the theme park daily pass tickets, I think that Disney wants us to get away from the mentality of it being a direct comparison between, what you would pay to get into the park versus what it would cost you to have an annual pass. My thinking here is that, Disney is in the business of over-delivering. They've always been in the business of over-delivering. I don't think Walt would be rolling over in his grave over these changes because Disney continues to over-deliver. And from an annual pass perspective, I think that Disney wants to get away from the thinking of, well, I'm going to be in the park for 10 days anyway, so I might as well get the AP, to having the annual pass feel like a clubhouse, right? So you're seeing, annual pass holder merchandise that's only available to annual pass holders. They have the cute magnets that we all love that they hand out at the festivals, and that cutting board and things like that. There are more significantly, things like the VI pass holder events that have been offered lately after hours for annual pass holders that are sort of like an extra magics, hours style event for pass holders. I think that Disney wants to deliver more, even if it costs more, to its existing annual pass holders than just have you making a direct calculation about what it would cost you to take a couple of regular vacations on an AP. when you spend a significant amount of money on the annual pass for Disney, it's going to make you want to come back for more. You're going to want to come back as often as you can to get your money's worth out of that pass. Obviously, that works for Disney just from a straight financial perspective, but it also forges a connection and it forges a loyalty, because when you're paying for something, you're more likely to use it more. And I think Disney wants us to buy an AP and use it. You know, I don't think that Disney's passes were meant to be added to a stack of other Florida theme park passes. You know, I think it's not by mistake that once I pay for my family of four to have annual passes for Disney, that Universal passes are no longer in the budget. I think, you know, Disney would rather have us pay as much as we are able for annual passes to Disney and then deliver and over deliver on that commitment to them than have us, you know, have a stack of theme park passes and be going other places when we get bored with Disney. So, you know, I go back again to that, you know, running the numbers idea. I don't think it's that simple anymore. I think that, you know, if you're just sitting there running the numbers and figuring out how much you'd be paying for 10 or 15 days in the parks at Disney versus what it would cost you to buy the AP for the year, that you're probably doing it wrong and you probably don't want the annual pass. I think that, you know, what you should be thinking about when you run those numbers is how much is the AP worth it to you from an overall perspective. So not just the fact that you have an effective park hopper to walk into the parks every single day for 365 days, or, you know, factoring in blackout dates if that's the pass that you go with, but the fact that you have free parking, you have access to these special events that they're running. You have access to special merchandise. You're getting discounts on other events that are being offered throughout the year. You have early access to things like registration for Run Disney events. You're getting, you know, merchandise and dining discounts. You're getting access to Tables in Wonderland if you want to further the discount and make that investment. You know, and above all else, maybe it's that emotional connection. I mean, I know I'm not the only person who got their first Disney annual pass and held it in their hand and felt close to tears, because you realize that this meant that you could literally walk into any park on property any day of the year, anytime that they're open for the entire year. I lived in Maryland at the time. I didn't even live in Florida. But the knowledge that I could stroll into a Disney park at absolutely any time that they were open for the entire course of the year was a really, really powerful thing. You know, as a Florida resident with 24/7 access to everything that Disney has to offer, I can tell you I would be really, really hard pressed to come up with any number that wouldn't feel like I was getting my money's worth out of my annual pass. What I can tell you is that I would hit the dollar amount that I'm able to pay for an annual pass long, long before I would ever be able to, you know, come up with a number that I would hit that would make me feel like I wasn't getting my money's worth out of the pass. I mean, think about what you get out of your pass, especially if you live here. You know, you get, you know, not only access to the parks, you know, every minute that they're open all year long, but you get shows, you get fireworks, you get, you know, special events, you get concert series at Epcot, you know, most of the year that are happening pretty much every night. There's so much that Disney has to offer once you've got that annual pass in your pocket, most of which doesn't cost you another penny. I think that's the sweet spot for Disney. Setting aside the fact that, you know, Walt wasn't the numbers guy to begin with, Roy was. You know, would Walt be rolling over in his grave? No, I don't think he would, because Walt wasn't in the business of delivering inexpensive product. Walt was in the business of over delivering on whatever he was putting out. So, you know, so long as the value of what I'm giving exceeds by a multiple of God knows what, you know, what I'm paying for my annual pass, I'm gonna have a hard time complaining. So that's my thoughts, you guys. That's my shtick. I think that, you know, I think that it's no longer about straight math. I think you really need to think about everything that you would be able to get out of the AP, you know, if you were to purchase it. I think Disney wants to over-deliver on, you know, product rather than have the AP widely available to people who, you know, aren't necessarily going to be able to make use of everything that they're trying to deliver to their annual pass holders. And if that means a higher price point in order to over deliver to people who can really make use of that investment, then I think that Disney probably feels like that's a better decision than, you know, having a less expensive annual pass that people can purchase simply because you know, it makes sense from a direct day spent in the park perspective for people just vacationing down here. So that in a nutshell is where I'm coming from. Those are my thoughts. And, you know, I hope Walt's not rolling over in his grave. I hope he's not, because he's still good by me. You guys, those are my thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Please comment and let me know. And that's it. I hope to see you guys in the park soon, and cheers. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.